Hello and welcome to this episode of Focus On with me, Municipality. The Resurgence Conference Durban, hosted by the eThekwini Municipality with collaboration with partners from the USA, will take place from 17 to 21 July at Inkosi Albert Luthuli International Convention Center. Now, this 5-day investment conference will place large business delegations from the United States, Africa and South Africa and put them all in one roof with a common effort to explore and maximize investment opportunities in Durban. For more on this, I am joined by the eThekwini Municipality City Manager, Mr. Musa, and from the other side of the world, right from the United States, is Ref. Dennis Dillon, the co-convener for the Resurgence Conference. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me and welcome to the show. I'm going to bring it back home and start with the gentleman positioned closest to me. Mr. Mbele, just kindly tell us a little bit more about this upcoming conference. We hear it is one of the biggest global investments that are set to be hosted in eThekwini.
Good day, and good day to the viewers of CNBC. Yes, this is going to be the biggest investment conference between these two countries. It is important to highlight the fact that even though the conference is going to be hosted in Durban, but it is targeting cities across the African continent and also in the diaspora. The intention of the conference is really to maximize investment opportunities between the cities in the African continent and the big investors in New York. The main purpose being to deal with issues of inequality in the earnings and also in the wealth, as we all know that Africans are at the bottom of the food chain, and the conference is themed to try to deal with all those problems.
And I'd also just like to bring in Rev. Dennis Dillon. I understand, as Mr. Mbele has said, this is not only standing as an economic opportunity for Durban, but largely the country and Africa as a whole. But I'd like to zero in on the choice to host it in Durban. What would you say as the Resurgence convener or Resurgence Convener Conference, what is the benefit of hosting it in Durban?
Well, I say to folks all the time that South Africa happens to be the feet of the continent, and I believe to move Africa forward, South Africa, the foot is critical in this movement. If I could probably make that broad statement, I think it's key that South Africa is moving forward. Secondly, I want to certainly make the point that we've seen such growth in South Africa for these 30 years since the ending of apartheid. One of the big concerns for us is, as much as we've seen the ending of political apartheid, I think South Africa still struggle with economic apartheid. And a part of this conference is to really bring investors, business leaders, other stakeholders to Durban, because Durban is so strategic. I think Durban has the capacity to be a resort city, certainly on the continent and in Southern Africa. And for that reason, knowing the fact that Blacks in America and the Americas have this huge passion to travel and to participate in resort travel, I think issues like tourism can have tremendous impact. When we look at the ocean economy, tremendous impact, and certainly across the globe, all of the areas for which we believe that the African globe, and when I speak of the African globe, I'm certainly talking about Africa on the continent and Africans beyond the continent, really need to come together and begin to form the kind of economic collaboration that's going to move our continent and our people forward.
Rev, it's so interesting that you've touched on economic apartheid and that movement towards, increasing equality. And it's so fitting to our country, South Africa, which recently come from an election. And some of the general consensus from the different parties is that something needs to be done in terms of the economy and that job creation. Now, bring it back, as I've wanted to explore why particularly the location for Durban. Mr. Mbele, just inform us what this conference potentially stands to achieve in terms of boosting that local impact and bringing in the necessary business and decision makers that can boost the eThekwini economy.
Yeah, thank you very much. One of our economic pillars, economic development pillars, is to bridge the gap between the businesses that are owned by other races in our country and those that are owned by Africans in particular. And as we do that, it is important that we must create opportunities for African-owned businesses to access markets in the United States, which is the world's biggest economy. And for sure, most people in Durban don't even know how to open up a business in New York, whether is there an opportunity for that business to grow. So with the functional economic linkages that are going to be created as a result of this conference, these businesses stand to benefit a lot. But more importantly, the biggest financial institutions in the United States have seen a need to close this gap. That's why they are investing billions of dollars. And when they come to join this conference in Durban, they will also be talking about the benefits of a targeted investment in the underprivileged racial groups. And that is what is going to become a benefit. It is meant to change how the big financial institutions view investment in the underprivileged racial group. But also, it is going to help enhance opportunities between and amongst African cities themselves. We do have a conference also scheduled to take place sometime next year called Africa Procurement Indaba, where all government institutions within the African continent will also be exploring opportunities to trade and access supply chain management opportunities. So this Resurgence Conference is going to form the biggest bedrock for enhancing that particular conference.
And it's interesting to note that exchange, right, between the economic hub of Durban, right, as it stands in South Africa, but also New York and the potential it has to bring in business to Africa. Rev, just touch on some of the activations you've been doing. I hear that you've been, actively campaigning towards this particular event, but just and in your day-to-day, just speaking about the potential of these trade relations between the two countries. Just let us know what has been the feedback in the recent days.
Well, certainly the energy is high, the excitement among Africans in America, New York in particular, is high. There's great excitement here. We are at this point welcoming the city manager here in New York, in meeting with key leaders, meeting with chambers of commerce executives and others, so that we are moving this conversation forward, and the activation is really engaged in talking to whether it's elected leaders, business leaders, strategic organizations and institutions, to ensure that there's this dialogue. There is this passion that Africans in New York have, and by that I'm talking about African Americans, continental Africans in America, Caribbean Americans, and the like, where we're actually now saying that there has to be a return. Literally, we've been removed from the continent 400, 500, 600 years, and there has not been a real journey back. And we want to make sure that this move and this journey back, relinking, reconnecting, has a strong economic overtone to it. The fact that Durban has been so strategic in so many global initiatives as it relates to Black folks across the globe, I definitely believe that Durban is strategic to this new economic revival that we're getting ready to see across the continent.
It's certainly also a pivotal economic partnership between the two respective countries. But also, just before we go, Mr. Bele, I'd like to bring you in terms of those that are interested, whether it be as exhibitors or those that are just merely interested to know more about the conference. Where can they go to the necessary resources and register themselves so they can participate in this event?
This is a must-attend conference. If you are a business person that has intentions to grow your businesses and you have been facing barriers to entry, just sometimes based on your racial profile, which is a very unfortunate occurrence in most of the African countries. So this is an opportunity for you to come down to Durban, exhibit your products to the most powerful investors from New York City and other parts of the United States who are coming with a clear vision of wanting to uplift your own business. So that you don't miss this opportunity, it's important that you register for exhibition using the www.resurgenceconference.org or to use the eThekwini Municipality's website, which is www.durban.gov.za. As much as we have activated in some parts of the Southern Africa, in places like Swaziland, but we are saying all African brothers and sisters who have this feeling that it's an opportunity for Africans to make it, they must come and join this particular conference.
Well, gentlemen, it is certainly an important relationship that you're fostering, and July is around the corner, and we can certainly hope that the economic objectives that you've laid out before us will be achieved for the near future. But that's unfortunately where we have to wrap up this conversation ahead of the Resurgence Conference, set to take place from 17 to 21 July at the Inkosi Albert Luthuli International Convention Center in Durban, South Africa. From me, Municipality, it's goodbye for now.